Everybody, it is Jason Hennessey. I wanted to make a quick video to talk about an update that took place with Google on May 4th. And so I just wanted to talk about this because I'd say maybe like twice, maybe three times a year, Google comes out with a big update. And typically when that happens, it's almost like an earthquake kind of shakes up the search engine result pages. And so when that happens, you have winners and then you have losers. And if you're doing SEO correctly, and what I mean correctly is, not really taking shortcuts, not building spammy links, not writing thin content, having just a real strategy. Typically what happens is, for the most part, you don't really ever have to worry about Google updates like that. Because as long as you've got a good strategy where you're publishing content that is adding value, that addresses search queries that are targeting your audience, while also just kind of building natural and authoritative links back to your website, you really don't have too much to worry about. Sure, there's going to be ebbs and flows, and Google might throttle certain things. Like, for example, they might discount certain links and they might add more value to other links. They might, put a little bit more weight behind things like NoFollow, which I'm going to talk about just here in just a second. But at the end of the day, again, a good strategy, you never really have to worry about that. But you do have to make sure that you do have eyes and ears, that are looking at things for you, because, you don't necessarily look at your website when there's an update like this. You want to study the sites that might have outperformed you, right? So if you were sitting in position 1 for a very important keyword and all of a sudden you slip to position 4, well, you want to take a look at the sites that are now ranking in positions 1, 2, and 3 and trying to detect the patterns of what they're doing that may be a little bit different to your strategy, where you can reverse engineer it and then start to apply some of the same principles. So let me just make myself smaller here, and I'll just kind of talk about a couple things that we're seeing. So again, Google Search Liaison, if you're not following them on Twitter, you could. This is Danny Sullivan is behind this. So they put out a statement on May 4th, which is actually great. I'm happy that when Danny took over here in this position, that they started to broadcast this stuff in advance. And so it says, later today, we're releasing a broad core update, as we do several times a year. It's called the May 2020 Core Update. Our guidance about such updates remain as we've covered before. Please see this blog post. And I'll click on that in just a second here. But just today, it says the May 2020 Core Update rollout is complete. So now is the time, because you don't want to start studying all of the winners and the losers and reverse engineering the algorithm update until at least Google makes an official statement saying that it is complete. So now you're going to have a lot of SEOs really starting to study the SERPs, as we are going to be doing too. And so that just was announced 8 hours ago. But if you click on this blog here, it's really interesting, right? First of all, just pay attention to the date. Thursday, August 1st, 2019 is when this blog post came out. And there'll be a link to this blog post as well if you want to go in and actually read it. And then way down here, there's a small little note detailing March 2020. And it talks about EAT, which stands for Expertise, Authority, and Trust, which, you want to be building with your website. But for the most part, dating back to 2019 here, I mean, the updates are not really too radical. This article, strictly talks about, we're suggesting focusing on ensuring you're offering the best content you can. That's what our algorithm seeks to reward, right? So you can read all of the specific details here, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're building an authoritative website by publishing content on a regular basis. And as you're publishing content, you're also kind of building authority by way of backlinks too. And the principles go back, even to when there was a Google Penguin update. This was back with my old agency called EverSpark Interactive. I created this video back on October 7th. Maybe we'll include this as well in the newsletter. So if you want to reference this was more of a link update at the time. It was a pretty radical link update. And I go into detail about what to look for if you felt like you were affected by that Google Penguin update. And it's a 14-minute video and it's pretty detailed. So, but again, here we are 6 years later, and, Google has rolled out many updates since then. But at the end of the day, they stay true to their core, and it's really built. Their algorithm is built upon content and links. All right. There's other things if you want to read, like, for example, this is a Webmaster guidelines and some of the things that you should be doing. Way back when Matt Cutts was still here, they've got videos there. This is the blog that we just looked at. So this was something that was interesting. So back in February of 2020 this year, Google made an announcement. I think it was Danny and John Mueller, where they said that Google is treating NoFollow links as a hint rather than a directive, right? And so up until this point, they said, NoFollow links don't add any value at all. And so people would go in and kind of, add NoFollow attributes to their links, just because they didn't want to pass PageRank. And so I still think that Google is not passing PageRank with these NoFollow. But I've always thought, even dating back 15 years ago, that NoFollow links do add a trust signal, right? So while they might not pass PageRank per se, they do pass a trust signal. And so that's why having a link from Wikipedia is one of the strongest links that you can get on the web, in my opinion. And I'm going to reference Wikipedia here as well in just a couple seconds. So that's one thing that we noticed that took place early in the year that could be factoring into this update. And then here's another long, this is the Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines. It's about a 170-page document. I've read it. It was published a couple years ago. They make changes to it every so often, but this is a document that they give to their evaluators, where people go in and actually look at the search engine result pages, and they actually rate queries just to make sure that they're satisfying the intent of the query. And so it's a pretty detailed document. I guess we'll include this as well in the newsletter, so if you want to read that. So let's look at some of the winners. FineLaw. FineLaw looks like it was a big winner with this update. And how I can tell that is here, right? So this is using SEMrush. You can see this nice spike here, right? So this is an estimate number of traffic. So if I look at this back in April of 2020, there's 2 million keywords that they're ranking for, and their traffic was about 4.4 million people coming into FineLaw per month, right? And so if I click now in May, you'll notice that the keywords stayed the same. So they're not ranking for more keywords, but they're getting a lot more traffic, 5.2 million. So that just means that a lot of keywords that they're ranking maybe on page 2 or the bottom of page 1 had rised above the fold on Google into positions 1, 2, and 3, right? So you can see a nice lift there. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, FineLaw is a site that's been around for a long time. They've got 3.7 million pages of content that's indexed. The pages are interlinking together very nicely. I can look, they've got a very strong domain rating of 90 out of 100. And look, they had a nice large spike in referring domains. That's links. These are different sites that are linking back to their site. If I go, let's just say 1 year, something radical happened with their links, right? So it really started to grow. So I think, this tells me that the links, in addition to the number of pages that they have indexed, are playing a big factor into why that site might have won with this algorithm update. This is another example, Parents.com. Same thing, right? You can see here a nice lift from April to May, right? So April, They were getting 4.2 million people coming into the website. Now 5.4 million, right? So a nice large spike there in the traffic from mostly the same keywords that they were ranking for. And again, that site's a nice big authoritative website in the parenting space, 64,000 pages indexed on Google. Same thing, you can see a nice spike in links over time, right? The number of referring domains. And this is probably natural link building, right? They're not manipulating anything. They're just publishing good content. Mommy bloggers are seeing it, linking to it, and it's just kind of growing and evolving. This is what a good SEO strategy should look like, right? Your number of pages that are indexed should be growing and evolving, and then the number of referring domains that are linking back at you should be growing and evolving over time. And the best example that I like to reference is Wikipedia. Wikipedia's been around for a long time. It's probably one of the most authoritative websites on the web. They rank on Google for just about any term that you put in. If I type in New York, there they are, ranking number 1. If I type in tennis, there they are, ranking number 2, right? They do a really good job of writing an authoritative page about a particular subject. So in this case, tennis, it's a very long and thorough page explaining what tennis is, right? If I use this tool, it's called Tag Crowd, it shows me what is the emphasis of this page, and you can see that tennis is the emphasis of that page. They have 266 million pages of content that's indexed on Google, right? And they do such a great job of interlinking the pages together, right? So you can see all these blue underlined links, right? And at the bottom, they do a good job of actually citing all of the sources, right? This is what Google loves, is the internal linking, right? And that's what you should be doing too. And at the same time, links, right? You can see the number of referring domains over time is continuing to grow, right? So they have a domain rating of 91 out of 100. So how can you make your strategy very similar to like the strategies of, FineLaw, Parents.com, Wikipedia? Well, the answer is the same, right? You want a continuous content strategy. You want to be publishing good content. You want to be interlinking the pages like Wikipedia. And over time, through outreach, PR, media, getting websites to link back to you. And so if you continue to do that, I don't want to say that you'll be Google algorithm proof, right? You're never, always, I guess you could always kind of get hurt by a Google update, right? But again, if you're just kind of following these principles, I think you really don't have too much to worry about when Google rolls out these radical updates. There'll be some ebbs and flows along the way, but it'll balance itself out. All right, sorry for making this video a little bit longer than I expected, but I hope it was informative. And as always, please let us know if you have any questions at all. Thank you.